Every civilization, every culture, every person is living inside a story. Some are aware of this, but most are not. These stories shape everything. They define what is real, what is possible, and what is worth fighting for. They are the invisible framework of belief, dictating how societies rise, how they fall, and how people live without ever realizing they are following a script. Some stories liberate, others enslave. But the most dangerous ones are those that pretend they are not stories at all, but reality itself. This is the greatest trick ever played on humanity. To make people believe that the world they see is the way things are, and they cannot be any different. Once you believe that, you stop questioning, you stop imagining, you stop seeing alternatives. And a person who no longer believes in alternatives is no longer free. People are desperate to escape the story they are in, whether rich or poor, educated or not, from different cultures and backgrounds. Almost everyone senses, at some level, that something is off. The dissatisfaction, the depression, the anxiety. It all stems from a deeper feeling of being trapped in a story they didn't write. This is why people seek new ideologies, religions, movements, or conspiracy theories. Not necessarily for truth, but for a way out. But unfortunately, most so-called alternative stories are just the same cage with different bars. Many people think they are escaping the mainstream narrative, but they are simply swapping one imposed story for another. They move from being controlled by the government to being controlled by an ideology, a guru, a movement, or a belief system. True sovereignty is not just rejecting the old story. It is the ability to stand without needing a new master. The greatest battle happening in the world right now is not a battle of politics, land, or technology. It is a battle between two kinds of stories, the ones we are told and the ones we create, and they shape human existence. Stories we are told come from governments, religions, corporations, history books, education systems, social norms and screens. They tell you who you are, what your limits are, what is true and what is false, what is acceptable, what is forbidden. They do not just shape the world you live in, they shape your mind. And if you believe them, you become a product of someone else's design, a pawn in a script you did not write. But there is another kind of story, a story that does not ask for permission to exist, a story that does not need validation or approval. It's the story you create. This story is not written by fear, not dictated by crisis, urgency, or control. It is born from something deeper, a knowing, a remembering that emerges from within. What I have learned is that fear is the oldest and most effective storytelling tool. If a story is based on fear, it controls people. If a story is based on empowerment, it liberates people. The systems of control use crisis, enemies, and urgency to keep people inside their narrative cages. A person afraid for their safety, their future, their survival, is easier to control than one who believes in their own power. Sad part is that most people would rather have a familiar cage than an unknown freedom. Many who recognize the lie of the imposed story still refuse to leave it because stepping into the unknown is terrifying. The mind clings to certainty, even if that certainty is a prison. This is why revolutions often fail. The people overthrow the system, but then recreate the same structure, just with new rulers. True change does not happen by destroying the old, but by creating something so profoundly better that the old becomes obsolete. The most powerful stories do not tell people what to think. They do not tell people who to follow. They do not offer solutions from external authorities. Instead, they awaken the dormant creator inside each person, the one who realizes, I do not have to accept the world as it is. I can shape it. The old story is already collapsing. The cracks are everywhere. More people than ever before are looking for something real. The question is, who will write the next story? Will it be the same forces that have always controlled the narrative? Or will it be those who have awakened to the power of creation? This is the moment of choice. And choice is where freedom begins.